Hello and welcome to the Life in Our 20s podcast. Thank you again to anybody that has been listening to this podcast so far. I really appreciate the support. It has been an eventful month for me. I know that I am again uploading a episode pretty late, and I'm sorry for that. I thought that it would be pretty simple to do 2 episodes a month, but it's been a little difficult because there's a couple of things that came up that I just was not prepared for. And I have been a little bit lazy. I'm not going to lie. It's getting to that point of the year, of the semester specifically, where things kind of get a little bit hectic at school, and it's just been a little bit difficult to get the motivation to do things, mostly my assignments. The podcast is something that I really want to do, but I have to put school first, especially since I'm very close to finishing my degree. I actually graduate next month, or in like 3 weeks, essentially. So by the time you listen to this podcast, it'll probably already be April. I plan on releasing this episode on I think the 31st of March. You'll probably be listening to this March, April-ish, and I should be in my final month of school. And that's the topic of this podcast episode. Sorry if I sound a little winded. I'm having a little bit of allergies. The weather's been a little bit crazy, and I've had a little bit of a tough time breathing. I've got the sniffles, and yeah, it's just the change of season, I think, so it's starting to get warmer again in California, and it's a little iffy. It'll be like really nice weather one day, and then just today it was raining again. But I promised I was going to do 2 episodes a month, so here I am. I'm sorry if I sound like crap again, but I'm doing my best. Anyway, the topic for today is my graduation and college. Is college necessary? And straight out the gate, right off the bat, I'm going to say no. I know a lot of people that have been doing relatively well, and some that are just doing really, really well in life. They're able to make the money that they need to live comfortably in California, which is insane because California is really expensive. And yeah, you need to bust your ass a little bit, but they're doing it without a college degree, and a lot of people, especially I think in my generation, we were kind of fed this, not exactly a lie, but not the truth either, that college is the way to go because it's what's going to provide the most money, and it's going to let us live a comfortable life, and that way we don't need to be busting our ass outside, doing construction jobs or this and that. And that's not exactly true. I think it really just depends on what you choose as a career path. There are a lot of degrees that you can get that just really won't do anything for you unless you really, really try hard. And there's other degrees that just by having it and people seeing that you got a degree in that, it'll open up a million different options for you. So I think it just really depends on how you play your cards. And sometimes, like, we kind of want to do something and we know that it's not going to be the best decision for the future, like monetary wise. So there's a lot of people that'll get degrees that just don't make any sense or that need like more schooling, like, go get your master's or your PhD or some other sort of like certificates and credentials. And they just don't want to put that much more time into it because it's really expensive. I mean, like, at my school, I think a semester is like 60 grand. Actually, no, I take that back. A year is 60 grand. A semester is like 30 grand. So if it's 60 grand a year, imagine doing that for 4 years. So it's not for everyone. I got really lucky and I got a decent enough scholarship from the school, some scholarships on the side, which are honestly kind of just pennies because it's just a wild cost. And then the thing that helped the most was that combination of my scholarship and financial aid. But sometimes I stop and I think, like, did I really need college? I don't think I needed college. I have other options and other things that I can do. And I think that's what I wanted to talk about. We've been fed this kind of like this, how would I word that? Like a story. We've been fed this perspective that college is the way to go. And schools are pushing us, like high school is pushing us to apply to college when it's not for everyone. It's not like one size fits all. Like, a lot of college, if you're going to go into, like, let's say, like the STEM field, a lot of college is like research based. So even if you're going to get like a history degree or you're going to do some sort of like biology or like physics or something like that, it's mostly research and like applying ideas or like theories and theorems. And that's not for everyone. And like, that's okay. Because I know a lot of friends that are going into like trade schools or like vocational schools and stuff like that. And like, they're doing really well. Better than some of my friends that already have degrees. And I think that that's something that we need to value a little bit more. Like, I can go and get like an art degree or something. Not to trash on anybody that went and got an art degree. It depends on what you do with it, right? But a lot of people go and get an art degree and they go, well, I have a degree. It should be easier for me to get hired now. But that's not exactly right. You still need to like create a portfolio, show what type of work you've done, what you're capable of, and you have to really put yourself out there, like really, really put yourself out there. Unless you kind of like, do your own projects and make money that way, or become kind of like a freelancer, you know? And you compare that to somebody that went and like, studied at like a trade school or something and became a welder or like a plumber, and they get paid so much. And I don't want to say that it's easy work, but I mean, those people that go into those trades are some of the smartest people ever, because you get paid really well. Usually, these people really enjoy their jobs because they like, that hands-on approach. And I think they're just really smart because they end up getting paid a lot. And yeah, the work is maybe a little bit tedious or like, a little bit annoying at times. But they already have that base of being paid a set amount that they can use to live comfortably and not be living pretty much paycheck to paycheck like people that work minimum wage or slightly above minimum wage. So they have that strong financial base already, and they can use that money and any of their free time that they have left to look into other avenues, So maybe they'll get into like real estate, or they'll go and study something else. They want to go and study business or something, and they can actually afford the degree now. And that kind of makes sense to me because they've experienced the world a little bit. They know how things work. They've worked in these companies, or like, they've worked under somebody. And these people that like work that sort of trade job and then go and get like a degree that helps them create their own company for said trade job, they are some of the smartest people ever, like honestly. Because they like tried something, went back to school just so that they can expand upon what they already know. And that's completely different from somebody that kind of doesn't know what to do straight out of high school. Like, we're straight out of high school. We got accepted to a university. And then we're just kind of like, what do I want to do? What should I study? What brings in enough money, but like, is something that I want to do? And it's like that complicated thing to find, like, like you're basically trying to figure out what your purpose is going to be for the future. And it's kind of difficult, and it's a little bit more complicated because you have to pay so much money up front. And these other like vocational courses, or like trade school courses and stuff, are a little bit more, I want to say, like financially available. Is that the correct term? It's more affordable in most cases. Or you could work under somebody that already knows how to do that stuff. Like if you have an uncle that knows how to weld or something, learn from him and then go work for him. Once you gain enough experience, you leave, create your own company, or like, start your own little business and stuff. Do your own jobs. That's cool. But for people that end up getting degrees, like you go into college straight out of high school, it's a little bit more complicated unless you know that you're going to get into like the engineering field or like STEM or something like that. Like if you're going to try to look for the cure for cancer, and everybody else just kind of, it's just whatever they can see themselves doing. I'll give myself as an example. Like, I really don't know what to do. So I don't really know what to do, right? And it's because I sort of panicked. I had an idea of going into teaching when I went to college. And I started during the COVID stuff, so everything was online. And I didn't really get to talk to professors much about what it's like and like what other avenues I could explore. And I ended up changing that drastically. I originally thought I was going to be like an English teacher. And I thought, oh, like, everybody like is hiring English teachers, like, because there's always new schools being opened or like, new positions at existing schools, and there's always a need for teachers. So I was like, I'll just go into teaching. And then I started seeing all these stupid things on like the internet. Like everybody knows what I'm talking about. I think if you have like Instagram or YouTube or even like TikTok, Twitter, you go on there and you go back to a couple of years ago and you see all these kids doing stupid things, like the whole devious lick thing, or like, just straight up disrespecting their teachers. There's this one case that I saw where a student just beat the crap out of their teacher for no reason. No reason. It's like, oh, she looked at me funny, so I beat her up. And I thought to myself, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to deal with that. I had to rethink, and it was getting to that point where you have to declare a major. And I just decided, well, these are my options. I'm going to go for one of them. And the options were economics, history, or philosophy. Economics was probably the smartest option. You could do a lot with economics, I think, especially if you end up doing like environmental economics and stuff like that. That's very popular now, especially with everybody trying to switch over to like EVs or like, trying to become more sustainable. The whole solar panel debacle, like, like trying to create more renewable sources of energy. And I still take classes on like economics, and I've taken like a couple environmental classes because I still find it interesting. But I did not end up doing that because the classes were just too much for me, dude. Like, I've never really been good at math. I can follow the directions. If somebody tells me, here's the formula, plug everything in and do it, I can do it. But whenever I have to do like some critical thinking for math, I don't know what happens. I suspend my intelligence for like 5 minutes and I sit there staring at the paper and I'm just like, what are these symbols and numbers? And it wasn't always like that. I think I was a lot better at math when I was like in middle school, early high school. And then like somewhere I just started losing it. Like, the whole, if you don't use it, you lose it thing. So I decided against economics. And then I thought, well, I'll do philosophy because I really enjoy that. And then I started thinking to myself, how is this going to pay? Unless I really like do more schooling, get my master's or my PhD and become a professor, how am I going to get paid for this? And there's probably some options, like, but I didn't want to look into it. I was really pressured for time. And I went with my last option, which was history. And I've always enjoyed history. I really enjoyed APUSH in high school. I really enjoyed the history classes in middle school. One of my teachers that has been super influential in my life was a history teacher, and I really enjoyed his class, like, learning about things from the past and how that can be seen in the future or in the present. Like, history doesn't repeat itself per se, but it's cyclical. There's cycles, there's ups and downs, like, there's rise of empires, there's fallings of empires. And I really enjoyed like the concepts presented in history and how certain histories mirror each other. I have this class that I took just last semester, and we analyzed apartheid in South Africa. And that class was really interesting because my professor said that it mirrors the history of the US with the segregation and all of that. And a lot of the things really line up, not timeline wise, because they happen in different eras, you know? But the concepts are there. And it's scary how close they are. Um, so I just, fell in love with history. And I'm glad that I chose that because it's shown me that I really love doing research. So even if I do not end up doing something with like history, I really enjoy research. So a lot of people have been telling me, you can get into like journalism or this and that. And I'm a little lost. I don't know what I'm going to do after graduation, but I know that I have some options. I talk to people and they're like, "Yeah, you could do this, you could do that." It's just they're like, "You have a degree, so it kind of gets you in the door," because most employers will go, "Well, yeah, he was able to stay there for 4 years and not drop out. That's some dedication there already." So they know that if they do end up hiring you, that you'll stick around for a little bit because you're dedicated. At least that's what some people say. It's still iffy because it feels like nobody's hiring in California. I don't know how it is with the rest of the US, but I think that I can make it work somehow, you know? If that doesn't work, I have other options. Um, I'll even go to trade school because I always loved working with my hands, but my parents have told me to go against it. They're like, "Nope, you go to school," because we didn't get the option to go to school. We didn't get the support to go to school. Nobody supported us. And now we're stuck, kind of like barely in the middle class and slowly making our way up it and eventually at some point, hopefully out of it. And it's always been whatever jobs are open. Do you need people to work in construction? Here we go. You need somebody to work in a restaurant? There we go. And it's just everything. My mom has worked a myriad of different jobs, mostly in the kitchen or nannying and stuff like that, but whatever's available, honestly. And then my dad also whatever's been available. Cleaning restaurants, painting houses, laying brick and mortar, construction. I remember he went and did a drywall job at some point. He's been installing vinyl fences. Like I said, the brick and mortar, installing tile. Right now he's working in trying to get schooling for electricity. He's trying to become an electrician. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word electrician. But anyway, they basically told me, study hard, get your degree so that you don't have to bust your ass like us. And I I was like, okay, I'll do as they say because like they said, they didn't get that option. And a lot of people don't realize that your parents kind of live through you. So whenever you do something and it's usually something that they weren't able to do, they're super proud of the fact that they were able to give you the option to do that. And they're also super proud of the fact that you actually did it. So that's why I decided to keep doing my studies and stuff. I was like, I'm going to do it for them. And I want them to be proud, and I want them to know that they kind of made it possible for me to do this. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have been able to do it. That they were there to support me. But if I have to, I'll go and do trade school because I've always loved to work with my hands. I've always thought welding was super cool, but if I could do anything I wanted to, I would probably get into woodworking. It's just really amazing. And that would be more like find a person that has done woodworking that I like that we know personally, or like, a friend of a friend, and try to get them to teach me in exchange for something like, some sort of manual labor or something around the house, or like, whatever. But I see myself doing that. Anyway, this is sort of off topic now, but I don't know what I'm going to do after graduation. I'm really looking forward to it because after graduation, I'm going to have a bunch of free time, and it's probably going to be me for a couple of months trying to figure out what I can do, start applying to jobs, and actually contributing to society finally. And it's kind of like that, that independence that people really want, but somewhat delayed, because I know a lot of people that are already pretty independent, doing their own things, and it's because they didn't do college, so they already started their life, and now us that are in college and barely going to graduate, we need to catch up. But life isn't like, there's not one way to go through life. There's different ways to go about it. So I'm just glad that I'm finally going to be able to explore and see what my options are, and actually start making a living for myself. So yeah. And if you're feeling a little lost, you don't know what to do, just don't worry about it too much. You can do something now, and if you don't really like it, you try something else in the future. Just make sure that what you're doing now, you can somewhat make some money with it, or have a backup option that you can make money with. So you have that, that base, that financial base, so that you're stable enough to make other choices and decisions that will help you in the future. I know a lot of people that will have a strong financial base. They don't really like what they're doing, and they end up making something else their actual career. Like people that have studied for, let's say, engineering, and they kind of fall out of love with it, and they end up taking up photography, and then that becomes their job, their hobby, but they're using that base from being an engineer to fund that hobby, and then make that hobby their full-time job. So there's still time to figure out what to do. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm really stressed at the moment, because thinking 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, it's scary, but I know that I'll get there eventually, and I don't have to worry too much about it. I feel like I can figure something out. So just keep at it, guys, and thank you again for listening. I'm going to leave this episode here. I surprisingly talked a lot, and I feel like I'm getting better at speaking what I want to speak and speaking my emotions. I'm not much of a talker, if you're in front of me, because I kind of stopped talking so much, but I'm starting to do it again. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to rate the podcast and share with friends, and just thank you for listening, and I'll see you around next time.